Charles Barkley talking about the Caitlin Clark phenomenon and the people he blames for blowing this whole Caitlin Clark deal.
People believe what we say on television. Just because people don't like you or your personality, they can't get on TV and slander you. It's just total bullshit. These ladies, and I'm a WNBA fan, they cannot have this Caitlin Clark thing up any worse if they try. What is going on here? And the thing I love about her, she never says a word. But these ladies, who I love and respect their game, they couldn't have this thing up.
Sheryl Swoopes, a WNBA legend, just got fired from her broadcasting gig. Why? Because she couldn't stop hating on Caitlin Clark. You won't believe what Charles Barkley had to say about this whole mess. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now back to the video. Let's talk about Caitlin Clark for a second. This girl is on fire. She's breaking records left and right in the WNBA. Imagine this. She's already the all-time leading scorer in NCAA women's basketball history with 3,569 points. That's insane. Now Sheryl Swoopes, remember her? Three-time WNBA MVP, Olympic gold medalist, Hall of Famer. She was the queen of women's basketball. But while Clark's star is rising, Swoopes' spotlight is fading. And you know what's crazier? Swoopes said something about Clark that got everyone talking. So here's the deal. We've got Clark, the new superstar, and Swoopes, the legend. But what happened between them? Why did Swoopes go after Clark? And how did it all end up with Swoopes losing her job? Stick around, because this story is about to get wild. It all started with one comment, just a few words from Swoopes, and suddenly, the basketball world was in chaos. How did a simple statement about Clark's record spiral into a career-ending controversy? Swoopes, once the queen of the court, found herself in hot water when she questioned the legitimacy of Caitlin Clark's scoring record. She claimed Clark had an unfair advantage because of the extra COVID year. If Kelsey Plum set that record in 4 years, well, Caitlin should have broke that record in 4 years, Swoopes said.
How much more experience that gives you over other players coming in, right? So people say, dang, like he or she's killing them, but you have a 25-year-old playing against a 20-year-old. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's not to take anything away from what she's done, but if you're talking about breaking records, then if this player did it in this amount of time, then you should do it in that same amount of time.
So is it truly a broken record? I don't know. I don't think so. Fans were shocked. How could a legend like Swoopes throw shade at the new star? But it didn't stop there. Swoopes doubled down by supporting Diamond Shields after a controversial foul on Clark. It was like she was trying to stir up more drama. The backlash was intense. Fans and players alike couldn't believe what they were hearing. Even Nancy Lieberman, another basketball icon, jumped in to defend Clark. She called out Swoopes for her unfounded claims, saying, "My life is going to be good with or without Sheryl Swoopes." Ouch! That's gotta hurt coming from a fellow legend. Swoopes tried to backtrack. She admitted she made a mistake about Clark's years in college. "I made a mistake in saying it was your 5th year when it is your 4th, she said. She even claimed to have a productive conversation with Clark through Angel Reese. But was it too little? Too late? The damage was done. Fans started wearing t-shirts to games that read, "Don't be a Sheryl. Talk about a PR nightmare." And it got worse. During a broadcast, Swoopes went silent for almost a minute when her co-host talked about Clark being named Player of the Week. Awkward much? But Swoopes wasn't done. She kept criticizing Clark, even saying the Indiana Fever could succeed without her. It was like she couldn't help herself. Every comment just dug her hole deeper. Swoopes might have thought she was just criticizing Clark, but she accidentally opened up a whole can of worms. Enter Charles Barkley, the guy who never met a controversy he didn't like. His take on this mess? It's not just about Swoopes and Clark anymore, it's about something way bigger. You know Charles Barkley, right? The NBA legend who's never afraid to speak his mind. Well, he decided to weigh in on the Swoopes-Clark drama. And let me tell you, he didn't hold back one bit. Barkley went straight for the jugular, accusing Swoopes of being jealous and resentful towards Caitlin Clark. Can you believe it? He basically said Swoopes was green with envy over Clark's success. That's a pretty harsh accusation coming from one basketball legend to another. But Barkley didn't stop there. He took this whole situation and turned it into a much bigger conversation about race in the WNBA. He said Swoopes' criticism of Clark wasn't just about basketball skills. It was about recognition and respect within women's basketball. Imagine this, Barkley, all fired up, saying, "You have to understand that a large part of that is Caitlin Clark." He was talking about the Indiana Fever's success, but he might as well have been talking about the future of women's basketball itself. And get this, Barkley even said that Swoopes' comments were giving fodder to those who believe she's being hated on and ostracized to some degree. In other words, he thought Swoopes was making the racial divide in sports even worse with her negativity. But here's where things get really interesting. Barkley didn't just make this about Swoopes and Clark, he turned it into a call for unity among all players in women's basketball. He was like, hey, we should be building each other up, not tearing each other down. You know what's crazy? Barkley even called out Swoopes for her own insecurities. He said, it was absurd she listed every player but Clark. Ouch, that's gotta hurt coming from someone like Barkley. While Barkley was dishing out harsh truths, behind the scenes, a major decision was brewing. The WNBA wasn't about to let Swoopes' comments slide. You won't believe what happened next. Swoopes got fired from her broadcasting gig with the Dallas Wings versus Indiana Fever game. Just like that, her career took a nosedive. Why? Because she couldn't keep her opinions about Caitlin Clark in check. The WNBA decided Swoopes couldn't comment fairly on Clark. They basically said, sorry Sheryl, but you're too biased to call this game. Can you imagine being told you're too prejudiced to do your job? That's gotta hurt. But it gets worse. People started throwing around the word racism. They thought Swoopes' comments about Clark were more than just basketball talk. It was like Swoopes opened a can of worms she couldn't close. Meanwhile, Clark's just out there doing her thing, breaking records, drawing fans, and making history. It's like she's in her own world, not even bothered by all this drama. While Swoopes is dealing with the fallout, Clark's star just keeps rising. This whole mess is shaking up the WNBA. It's making everyone think about how veteran players should treat the new kids on the block. Should they be mentors, critics, cheerleaders? It's not just about Swoopes and Clark anymore. It's about the future of women's basketball. Think about it. What if every time a new star comes along, the old guard tries to tear them down? That's not good for anyone. The WNBA is basically saying, we're not gonna let that happen. But here's the real kicker. This could change everything. Veteran players might start thinking twice before they criticize the new talent. They might worry about losing their jobs or their reputations. Is that a good thing? Maybe. Maybe not. Imagine you're a rookie in the WNBA right now. You're probably thinking, am I gonna get the Caitlin Clark treatment or the Sheryl Swoopes treatment? It's a whole new ball game out there. And what about the fans? They're watching all of this go down. Some are Team Swoopes, some are Team Clark, but most are probably just wondering, can't we all just get along and enjoy some good basketball? Wow, this Swoopes-Clark drama is like a tornado hitting women's basketball. It's not just about two players anymore. It's shaking up the whole game. Think about it. We've got the old guard and the new stars, and they're not exactly playing nice. But here's the real question. When does tough love turn into straight up hate? Swoopes thought she was just being honest, but look where it got her. Fired. And Clark? She's just out there breaking records like it's no big deal. So what does this mean for women's basketball? Are we gonna see more drama every time a new star shows up? And how do we cheer for the legends and the rookies at the same time? It's like trying to root for your favorite team and their biggest rival. Impossible, right?